A second chance at life is the ultimate fantasy. But for ordinary salaryman Takeru Kamishiro, it was a terrifying ultimatum. He was suddenly ripped from his boring, clockwork existence, standing before a cosmic entity who told him he had already died in the real world. His only choice was rebirth on the dying planet of Medeus, tasked with saving its constantly collapsing civilizations. The problem? He was given virtually no combat skills. No hero's sword, no fighting experience, just overwhelming raw magic power he couldn't control, and an odd team to search for materials. He arrived utterly alone, financially ruined, and immediately facing starvation. This was a high-stakes survival game, where the world's salvation, or his own demise, hinged entirely on him learning to scavenge quickly. The cosmic entity wasted no time on pleasantries, getting straight to the point about Takeru's new role as the world's reluctant messiah. After processing the shocking news of his death, Takeru, recalling his mundane previous life, settled on his new priority, a desirable companion. He politely requested a cute companion. The god, amused by the simplicity of the wish, simply assured him he would encounter many desirable partners on his journey. Equipped with maxed-out mana reserves, automatic global language translation, and an infinitely large storage bag, a glorified grocery tote, really, Takeru was unceremoniously dumped into a dense, unknown forest. He looked around at the towering trees and the alien sky, quickly realizing the divine intervention hadn't provided a roadmap, only the raw, often confusing tools he needed to figure out his own survival. Upon awakening, Takeru's immediate thought was, naturally, food. He remembered his single, crucial cheat skill, the search magic. Excitedly, he tried to activate the spell, but it failed completely. He felt a deep surge of shame and frustration, realizing that magic in this world wasn't intuitive. It required an unexpected, almost bureaucratic step. He had to scrawl the Japanese command in the dirt to make it work. As the spell activated, the world was instantly transformed. Holographic icons indicating rare materials lit up everything around him, even the weeds and pebbles. He systematically differentiated the symbols, learning the hidden language of the gatherer. Clovers meant herbs, diamonds meant minerals, and hearts symbolized life energy. The first high-value item he scanned was moonite grass, listed as a rare B-rank material. Takeru had been reborn not as a warrior, but as a master scavenger, and he embraced his new role instantly. He resolved to become the greatest gatherer merchant Medeus had ever seen, if only to afford a decent meal. Takeru spent hours tirelessly filling his infinite storage bag with every marked item he could find, quickly amassing an unbelievable haul of high-quality goods. He made his way to Tormi village, and, introducing himself as a traveling merchant, encountered the curious village guard Marlowe. At the general store, the shopkeeper was instantly stunned, not by Takeru's awkward height, but by the sheer, overwhelming quality and volume of his inventory. Takeru, who had only been gathering for a few hours, received 300,000 raves for his collection, an equivalent of roughly $20,000 US. He had gone from disposable salaryman to unexpectedly rich commodity broker in a single afternoon. The shopkeeper, assuming Takeru was a legendary specialist, immediately tasked him with a perilous mission: retrieve rare Mizral ore from a remote mountain. That night, at the inn, he received a small but shocking dose of reality. The inn had no public baths. Only nobility could afford that luxury. Takeru, a man now capable of cosmic feats, was forced to settle for a simple cleansing spell, his dignity permanently wounded by the lack of a proper soak. Takeru's quest led him deep into the feared forest of ancient dragons. He noticed the strange, unsettling absence of monsters. Perhaps they were scared of his power, or maybe the rumors were simply false. Pushing onward, he suddenly lost his footing on a treacherous slope and fell into a deep cave entrance. Landing safely thanks to his magic, he continued his search for the Mizrail. but instead made a much grimmer discovery. The skeleton of Belria Fend. The fallen warrior had succumbed here, and Takeru found a simple necklace and a heartbreaking letter from the man's family, pleading for him to return home before it was too late. It was a tragic, sobering moment, showing Takeru that the quiet, desperate dangers of this new world were just as deadly as the mythical ones. Takeru honored the dead, digging a proper grave and saying a prayer, acknowledging the anonymous sacrifice. Before resting, he mixed scavenged materials into a makeshift Takeru's soup that, against all odds, was surprisingly delicious, proving his gathering skills extended to cooking. Deeper inside the cave, the environment grew unstable. Takeru successfully located the first deposits of the requested Misril ore, gathering a small but valuable amount. But the earth began to shake violently, rumbling with escalating intensity. Ignoring the clear danger, Takeru pressed on, driven solely by the promise of more valuable loot and the need to complete his quest. That's when he stumbled upon it, a pool of water that glowed faintly, the purest and cleanest he had ever seen in either world. Scanning it, he found the frightening truth. It was SS-rank underground magic element water, and it was explicitly listed as belonging to the ancient dragon of the underworld. Despite the clear warning, Takeru, driven by foolhardy overconfidence, couldn't resist the draw of the high-ranked material. He took a drink. This action was his immediate undoing. His massive, unstable mana reserves flared violently upon contact with the sacred water, instantly awakening the beast from its deep slumber. A terrifying, earth-shaking scream echoed, and the colossal dragon, Voldius, emerged from the pool's depths in a torrent of ancient magic, demanding to know who dared disturb his sacred domain. Takeru reacted instinctively, dropping to the ground in a deep bow, a habit drilled into him from 20 years of apologizing to his boss. He apologized profusely, explaining he was merely a gatherer. The dragon, however, was not concerned with politeness. He was shocked by Takeru's sheer amount of mana, noting it was on par with his own. Voldius then made a stunning, transactional request. His child's egg would not hatch because it was tainted by miasma, and he needed Takeru to use his unique, clean mana to save it. The reward for this terrifying task was the rest of the Misril ore Takeru came for. Takeru agreed, but his attempt to heat the egg with his power caused a sudden, violent explosion of pure magic. He was overwhelmed and fell into the water, briefly losing consciousness. In that instant of darkness, a second deity appeared, a universal middle manager, who angrily noted that Takeru, by involving himself with a dragon, had fundamentally broken the balance of Medeus already. Takeru was nearly erased by the sheer force of the resulting chaos, facing a second death just moments after starting his new life. Takeru awoke, sputtering for breath, relieved to see Voldius still there. More importantly, the egg had hatched. A tiny, dirty baby dragon suddenly bounded onto him, licking his face. And it was dirty. Voldius, explaining that Takeru was the stronger parent and the baby had imprinted on his mana, declared the baby was now his to raise, fulfilling Takeru's wish for a cute companion. The dragon, whom Takeru affectionately named B, was now his ward. Voldius then gave Takeru the promised Misril ore and retreated back into his pool, instructing Takeru to leave. The salaryman, who began with nothing but a search function, had now accidentally formed the most shocking contract in the world of Medeus. He left the ancient forest not with a sword, but with a literal mythical beast in tow. The greatest threat now wasn't monsters or starvation, but figuring out how the world's quietest gatherer could possibly keep a baby dragon a secret in Tormi Village.
Takeru and B finally exited the ancient dragon's cave just as the sun was setting. B, seeing the world outside for the first time, zipped around happily, vibrating with pure, unadulterated energy. Takeru knew they had limited daylight left, so he quickly decided to set up a temporary camp nearby. His first priority was B. He filled a glass with the magical lake water, the special tonic the ancient dragon, Voldius, had magically linked to Takeru's inventory. This water was absolutely necessary for B's growth, feeding her rare status. She quickly finished the first glass, and then, in a truly surprising moment of maturity, she kindly handed the full glass back to Takeru, wanting him to drink the nutritious water too. Takeru, the supposed weak gatherer, reluctantly took a drink. Next, Takeru focused on defense and comfort. He used his own mana to instantly generate rare magic stones to create a barrier, skipping the lengthy hassle of speaking full spells out loud. He knew magic stones were considered incredibly rare in this world. A shame he didn't need any of the scarcity. He concentrated heat magic and created a controlled flame stone for cooking. With the fire ready, Takeru began preparing a hearty meat stew. B started drooling uncontrollably at the sight of the food. Takeru decided she should be able to handle solid food now and poured her a bowl. He warned her it was too hot, but the little dragon simply ignored the warning, guzzling the stew down quickly. Predictably, she burned her tongue, a truly dignified and pathetic display for a mythical creature. Takeru had to sigh, taking the bowl and gently blowing on the stew to cool it down. As B drifted off, Takeru found her utterly adorable. He checked her stats, confirming she was already at a terrifying B rank with seriously impressive natural gifts. He was shocked, but decided that no matter how strong she became, B was still a child who needed guidance. He started lecturing her on being careful and listening. But B, too sleepy, simply snored right through his speech. Takeru was left to ponder if he had been given an overpowered kid who literally ignores him. With the night peaceful, Takeru knew that morning would bring new challenges. And the next morning, things got aggressive. The next day, Takeru climbed the cliff he had fallen from, reaching the perimeter of the forest. The area had strangely transformed. As B began exploring, a strange, primal tingling hit Takeru, and B came flying back, visibly terrified. His radar interface lit up with a flurry of monster pointers. He realized his monster-repelling, bad smell must have finally been washed away. He wasn't worried, though. Fighting meant getting valuable materials and fresh meat. The danger wasn't just lurking in the trees. A C-rank rock falcon suddenly appeared, swooping down behind him. B was terrified, but Takeru dismissed the predator as a cute ingredient. As he read the monster's description, he noted its meat was tasty. Right, fine then. That was reason enough. He instantly created a powerful magic shield, then shot razor-sharp ice spikes, bringing it down instantly. One new ingredient secured. But B pointed to the forest, where more monsters were emerging, a pack of vile wolves with snakes for tails. Takeru knew he had to face them in close combat. He quickly cast enchantment spells to make his body lighter and faster. He reinforced his entire body with defensive magic. When the first wolf lunged, he dodged it effortlessly, then landed a decisive, ultra-hard kick to the wolf's head that instantly eliminated the creature. The other wolves were too slow for his enchanted speed. Takeru systematically took them all out using powerful, swift kicks. He collected the valuable meat and materials, but then spotted even more creatures coming. He was profoundly annoyed now. He couldn't keep fighting an endless tide forever, as much as he enjoyed the quick, satisfying exercise. Just when he thought the brutal forest fight was over, the onslaught still wouldn't let them go. The sheer number of monsters was reaching overwhelming levels. They needed to move, and they needed to move fast. B, seeing his frustration, decided to help, trying to fly him out while carrying him. Takeru thought the little dragon couldn't possibly manage, but B used her amazing power to lift him up. Takeru tried to assist her by casting a spell to greatly reduce his own weight, but he helped too much. B was completely unprepared for the sudden drop in load and suddenly shot high up into the sky, surprising both of them with her speed. Takeru panicked, screaming that she was flying too high, and the startled B instantly dropped him. He started screaming as he plummeted back toward the ground, but thankfully, the dense trees acted as a giant, soft cushion, saving his life. B immediately zipped down after him, covering his face with frantic apologies and licks. Takeru was low-key, annoyed by her antics, but as he stood up, he realized they had flown completely clear of the forest. He thanked her, but begged her to hold back a little next time, emphasizing that he was merely a fragile human. B, not understanding those complicated words, just hugged him tightly in reassurance, accidentally breaking a couple of his ribs in the process. They had escaped the creatures, but the next discovery would be even more ridiculous. As they resumed their journey, Takeru waved a random branch he'd found, claiming it was the branch of the legendary sleeping Yggdrasil that embodied the world. B knew the secret. She breathed a cloud of stinky gas that instantly transformed the tiny branch into a magnificent staff. Takeru was shocked, a gatherer with a wizard staff. How utterly inconvenient for his disguise. His thoughts were cut short by a loud, monstrous roar. Following B, he found her circling a tree near a ragged, exhausted female elf. The monster roar was her stomach. She hadn't eaten in 3 days. Takeru couldn't believe the sound was coming from her. He handed her his water bottle, which she emptied immediately. The water helped, but didn't ease her hunger, so Takeru offered her his lunchbox. She greedily devoured the food, shooting a hyper beam of joy and saying the food was heaven. Takeru was taken aback. Elves shouldn't behave so utterly uncivilized. He tried to temper her praise, telling her the food only tasted good because she had been starving. Takeru started roasting her, asking how she possibly ran out of food, adding that even a complete beginner would carry a lunchbox. The elf got pissed and moved to quarrel with him, but Takeru immediately backed off because she simply stunk. He confessed he thought elves smelled like peppermint and strawberries, not fresh manure. The elf was furious, saying she couldn't bathe while camping. She ran off, thanking him for the food, but lectured him for mocking someone who had just helped him. Takeru was left utterly disappointed after his first encounter with an elf. This world apparently offered no elegant fantasy races. Anyway, he regrouped and exited the area. B spotted a magnificent carriage pulled by a unicorn from over a mile away. The merchant driving it, Porin, invited him to ride along to the Tormi village, asking if he was a wizard because of the staff. Takeru nervously replied that he was just a humble gatherer, which Porin found impressive since gathering experts were rare. The whole family, Eliza, Yunnan, and Kane, checked him out. Takeru tried to scare the kids by joking about being a bandit. The boy simply laughed, saying he couldn't be bad because the magic crystal bell hadn't rung. It rings when a bad person is nearby. Takeru was deeply impressed by the simple, effective security idea. He introduced himself. The family was incredibly friendly, saying they always help each other out. Takeru found them almost too trusting for their own good. They had no idea who was really riding with them. Later, B started making noises from under Takeru's coat. Takeru nervously let her out, warning her not to bite. The kids were smitten, but the parents were shocked. Dragons are incredibly rare. Porin asked if Takeru was a dragon knight, but Takeru explained he just found and hatched the egg, which was even more shocking to them. That night, Takeru set up a magic stone barrier, but the family put their full trust in B instead of the stones. Takeru was low-key disappointed. When Eliza prepared dinner, Takeru asked to cook instead. He pulled utensils and ingredients from his magic bag, which was yet another surprise, and prepared a massive, delicious meal. The taste amazed everyone. Porin started crying because he was bored to death of eating dried meat every single day. He declared Takeru a magician, not of power, but the magician of taste. They all laughed and celebrated. For Takeru, who used to eat dinner completely by himself on Earth, having company while eating was a truly great feeling. It begs the question, how long can a gatherer with an SS rank dragon and god-tier magic keep his weak cover? What do you think will be the next shocking revelation of Takeru's hidden power? Let me know in the comments below. And that's it for this time.